Welcome to this call here, where we will talk a little bit about some of Bitcoin and especially the task for the Warden Specter plugin. So, Warden, I won't go into detail what Specter is. Warden is a kind of an application, standalone application, which is very tightly connected to Specter, which gives people a better idea of their investments of Bitcoin from a kind of investment purpose point of view. So I already downloaded Warden here, and maybe give a short overview. So I checked it out. I created an environment, a virtual environment. This is not as it's described on the Warden here. That's a Warden project. It's not explaining how to do it, how in a virtual environment, but I like to use virtual environments, especially as we have different versions, as we later will see in the Specter Desktop here. That's the reason why we definitely need a virtual environment, and I don't want to pollute the system-wide Python library. So that's why I created an environment as described or explained in Specter Desktop sources. And I installed the requirements here. So after installing, I had a problem with, I think with, I had kind of two error messages when starting. And that's the reason why I added this one here, and can't see it now, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe we then have to redo it here. How to start a Warden is quite easy. Python 3 Warden. Let's do that. Yeah, and then it's on your machine. Port 500. Username, password. I think. Yeah, I already created one. I didn't do much apart from the configuration towards Specter. Here, connection. So Specter running, and I doubt that is true. I'm a little bit, no, it's not true, but I've configured it. There's a configuration editor somewhere here. And I adjusted here the Specter login and the Specter password here, right? So that is the only thing I did. And then maybe we can start Specter or maybe also start a Bitcoin D. Yeah, let's start the Bitcoin D full thing here. You probably know that already from one of the, oops, delete the right directory, activate Bitcoin D, and then also start the server, right? Here we go, right? Yeah, in that case, for some reason, I now have a new Bitcoin D. So my wallets are gone, I can just recreate them. What's up here? I'm not sure what that was. Recreate the wallet. I had a hot wallet here. What's wrong? There's something wrong. I'm confused. So you see I have 2 transactions. I thought I have more, but doesn't matter. So the point is that wow, every session is gone after a couple of seconds. That's a little bit strange. So Warden will connect somehow to the REST interface of Specter and will then check in what kind of wallets we have, and will then here, for example, it checks, okay, you have that wallet, and how much you have on that wallet, and then it will give you some idea about what the performance is in terms of fiat of your wallets and so on. So that's the functionality of Warden, of standalone Warden. And as I said, I needed to put here some additional dependencies in here to make it work. And now the question is, how do we put that in as an extension for Specter Desktop? And the first thing which is important here is, here you have the source code of Warden is here in the Warden subdirectory. And usually there is in Python, there is a main.py. And if you say something like Python 3 Warden, then this means that the main py is started in that, because this is considered to be a module in that case. And then if you start a module, or if you run a module, then the main.py will get started. And this means effectively this will get started, because all the other is just are just function definitions here, right? So, but the only thing which is not a function is this one here. This is a kind of the usual way in Python how to start code. If you have functions, and then you do it like this, because when you directly start that, this will be true. And if you import it, then this will not get executed, right? Okay, so yeah, it's running the main function. And if you know a Flask application, you will probably also somehow get familiar with that. So you're creating an application, right? And you have effectively a function doing that. And then you do a create app context push. Then you're doing the initialization of the app. Not sure why this is needed here. And at the end, you have some glue code, maybe onion string is for the Tor, and this is for getting access to your network, so that you have host, so that you're not only running on localhost. Some prints, and then this is the thing which is relevant in order to run your application. That's all, right? So the relevant part for informing the application where your endpoints are, because that's the most important information of a Flask app, is where your endpoints, right? And if we look at the create app function, which got called first, It's this one here. Yeah, doing some logging stuff. Yeah, this is very familiar, probably. Yeah. So if you search here Flask and then get started. Here, right? So you're creating a Flask application. In that case, you're creating also a configuration, returning the app. And here you also have some, you're defining an endpoint, right? In our case, I don't think we do that here in the create app, but in the init app, right? There's a config file, and most of that stuff which you see here is already solved by Specter, right? So you can probably throw away that code, most of it. I don't care also about getting Tor to run. This is not part of the task. You can, such kind of details, you can deal with that at the very end, right? So I don't care whether your application is running on the host network or on Tor. It should run, first of all, on the local host. And yeah, so I think somewhere here you see code which is creating a database. In that case, it's a SQLite, I think. SQL Alchemy is a framework for attaching SQL databases. Any if you like, but most of all, or in that case, only SQLite is used, right? Yeah, so there's some configuration here as well. And here it gets interesting, right? So we have the login system. We have a login system, and I guess that is also something you somehow try to throw away, right? Because we also have a login system in Specter, and they are probably clashing. They're using the same technology more or less, and so that stuff is also not relevant here. I don't know what that is. And I don't know what that is either. But that's probably also check for upgrades, right? I don't care about all that stuff, right? I mean, this is more sophisticated. You can throw everything out, which you don't have. For example, this one here, and I check for crypto compare API keys. So there are also API keys for specific functionality, because maybe the application needs to, I think there is something like here, compare performance, right? And then you can compare the performance of BTC with a specific other stock or bond, or I don't know. And probably for the tickers of that other bond, it's calling to some external service, and for that it needs an API key. You can throw that away as well, right? This is optional, and we can take care at the very end, but it shouldn't bother you at all here, right? Yeah, this is also the check upgrade stuff here. I don't know what that is. Here's a lot of Tor stuff as well. And here, this is the relevant part we are searching for, right? So this is the first time blueprints gets called here and registered. And the problem we have is in our plugin world, we only have one blueprint for one plugin. But what is a blueprint at all, right? So I think should blueprint. So usually you have like you have that app. Maybe you see here, right? So you have the app root, and if your application is growing bigger and bigger, you might want to have blueprints which are then somehow taking up the first level of the URL. And if you look, for example, here in Specter Desktop, there is, for example, this one here, right? So this is the wallets blueprint. Yeah, I call it then wallets endpoint. I'm specifying the blueprint. So when you create the blueprint, it doesn't tell you where it gets mounted, let's say, right? But in that case, it's statically mounted at /wallet. So all these definitions here, they are assuming that there is an additional wallet here in the very beginning, right? That's the main difference. I mean, it makes things more flexible, and it can shard functionalities from one another. So if you look at the server endpoints here, for example, in Specter Desktop, we have a wallets blueprint, we have a nodes blueprint, we have a user blueprint somewhere, we have an out blueprint. So here, so this is effectively a way how to cut things into pieces, right? And maybe Flask would define it. A view function is the code you write to respond to requests to your application. Create a blueprint. Yeah, so you specify a blueprint like this. Yeah, here we do it like this. And in that case, you have the URL prefix is specified while you're instantiating it. In Specter Desktop, you can also do that here, for example, when you're registering the blueprint, because you can even reuse blueprints more than often or more than once, but we don't do that. And also, Warden is not doing it. So forget about it, but it's the reason why this is possible, right? So, and for some reason, we want to be more flexible, especially for plugins later, where we are mounting these URL prefixes or these blueprints, right? And that's the reason why we are doing here at the registering time. And here, right? So this is a point. So you're registering a blueprint, or you're instantiating a blueprint, then you're registering a blueprint, and then you have you create endpoints, right? Like this one here, and then you have a URL which is called /out/register, right? So that's effectively what a blueprint is. So in our case, let's maybe get a little bit more into practice here. So this is Warden, Specter Desktop. So let's assume we have Specter extension Warden. Don't have anything like that, but let's create it now. So Python 3 text again, hold the ID warden. Prefix is, I'm doing it now like this. No, creating the structure. So then I'm adding folder to the workspace. And here is the code. So now what I need to do is yeah, I will reuse now, as I did last time, the virtual environment from the Specter Desktop. And then I can immediately start it. It's not running here. I have this Bitcoin D. Run it. Okay, so where's my warden plugin? Damn. Ah, here, warden service. Here it is. Right, and that's what you can see here, right? So the warden is I would say it mounted. I heard someone who's complaining about the term mounting, but I think it's the right term. So a blueprint is mounted on a specific path, right? And all warden stuff. So this is the root now of warden. If I go to transactions, damn, what's that? I don't get it. Something wrong here with the authentication system. Here, for example, you see here transactions, right? And I go to the controller here, and I see the endpoint transactions here, right? And here also it's specifying somehow, no, it's not defining the blueprint here. This is a different here than, for example, for the wallets. In the wallet case, the blueprint is defined here. In our cases, that is the beauty of the system, that the blueprint is not defined here. But we have to look where it is defined, and that's what we're going to do now. So there was a search for register blueprint, and there's a service manager. And inside the service manager, there's a function, the init function, which is registering the blueprints for all the services. So effectively, it's iterating through all the services or plugins which got loaded, and then it, on the one hand side, it will call that function here for each plugin. It's a class method, and here it will check whether the whether it has a blueprint, and we can maybe go to the service class of Specter warden, and you will see here has blueprint is true, and it has a blueprint module here, right? And that is the controller of here, this one, right, where all the definitions are in. So lost that here. Okay, so yeah, and then you can specify in your service, you can specify the module where your controller is, right? And then it's creating the blueprint here, right? It has a template folder and a static folder and an import name. Yeah, so the import name is the same effectively, but later on when you register the blueprint, you will have to reference, or currently the plugin system is referring to exactly that module. right? And then what is happening here? You have the URL prefix, and then you have the X prefix. The X prefix in that case is SVC here, like this. And then the class ID, and the class ID is warden. And then this transactions is already part of the controller endpoint transactions, right? And then it's mounting that that plugin into SVC warden. So this is how it works, right? After registering the blueprint, everything is done effectively, and we are done, right? So it's really exactly this function where all the blueprint magic is taking place. So what we need to do in order to enable more than one blueprint is to adjust that function. Why do we need to do that? Well, let's jump back to warden. Here we have main, and here we have the blueprints, right? So we have more than one blueprint, and these blueprints are then somewhere here. For example, we have warden. So this is referring to here. From roots, import warden. Where are the roots? Here are the roots, and here's the definition. So that's the warden we are talking about, right? And I think you can probably copy all that stuff, the whole source code, over to the plugin. Yeah, it might be then have a different kind of referring to, but that should be okay. So I would probably do it exactly like this, copying the whole folder into the extension. Yeah, and here we have that warden file, right? So the structure is the organization, then Specter X, and then warden. And we can copy it here. Oh, now we have done it wrong. We can delete this. It's an artifact from Python. And not sure how, yeah, can do it like this. Move all that stuff. Static templates, maybe that's not so good idea, but let's say that one is easily movable. And I think that the blueprints might be using user roots. I move that as well here to warden. And all that stuff here as well. Yeah, I have a little bit of clashes in it, main and config. So if stuff is clashing, I don't simply move it. I really investigate. That's better. Where's config? Here's config. So let's do it in parts. First this, then this. Oh no, sorry. This. And these are the three. The init, I don't care. The main is, yeah, interesting. Where's my warden folder? I'm confused. Ah, here. Oh, I'm confused. I think I just did something very wrong. I think I moved the warden folder towards in here. That was very. I hope I haven't done something wrong. You should make that more cautious. Anyway, so what's now missing is here templates and static. Maybe I should have checked it in. So I think the best procedure would be create your plugin, then push it into Git, and then you can move all that stuff in here, and then and try to work your way through that. Right?
I think you have replaced correct only.
Yeah, hopefully. So what I didn't want to do is that I have now static and templates in here, and I'm not sure whether I have the old files in here because I don't think so. Probably if I'm so probably now this is broken. Yeah, yeah. But who cares? Okay, so if I would be a little bit more cautious, try to get it runnable all the time. That's a good advice from my side. Try to be cautiously make changes. And yeah, I can't redo that now, but probably I should have checked it in into Git. Then I can at all times return right to the place where we want to. But what I think is here the most important thing is where's my service class. So if that is lost, then that's definitely not good, and I can't see it here anymore, and that's definitely bad. I lost it. I don't know. Maybe I was too fast. But what I wanted to show you is on the one hand side you have here the registering of the blueprints, and I think here, for example, you always have the same kind of templates and static. So that makes things a lot more easier. Effectively, it potentially could all fit maybe into in one blueprint. I don't even know why he did it exactly, but yeah, he did it. So we can't user roots blueprint, and the default is always in the same folder static and template. So if it's not mentioned explicitly, then it's also the same, right? So I think that makes things a lot easier. The problem is just now, like, okay, how do we do that with the many blueprints, right? And I can't show that here because I just crashed my service file, which is effective, which is very important to get it working. So, for your trick, I can simply create again, and it's simply recreating all the files in here. All right. So now we have starting it again. Yeah, here we go. Everything working again. Here's the settings. Yes, save. Really, this makes me nervous. I'm not sure what stop with the session. I have to check afterwards. Okay. So now here we have the warden service. So, okay. So now we want more than one blueprint. So let's take another maybe 20 minutes and try to achieve that, right? Because you probably have then here this controller here, and you could effectively say something like from, let's make an example. We start with maybe comment that out. Just start with this one here, right? So the controller is the one we try to get that stuff in here, right? So we would then import stuff here. Root imports warden, and this might already, oops. Yeah, and now we have like these dependency issues, right? No module find warden decorators here, and that's where's warden decorator? Here. And now we have to do a lot of these kind of changes here, right? Because the structure changed a little bit. So the module is now called K9ERT Specter X Warden, right? And yeah, and so we have to make a lot of these kind of changes here. Let's hope it's not too much of that. So that's only as well. Oops. Usually do it there like this. It work. This is interesting, right? So we need pandas. So pandas is a library which is not yet existing, which is not yet in the virtual environment. And so what we need to do is, here's the requirements txt from the extension, and here's the requirements txt from warden. If I'm, no, that's Specter Desktop, warden. So we would need to copy that over. Yeah, and there are some things which are clashing, right? So I would push them all out here and only take the stuff which is not already imported by Specter Desktop. We also had, as you could see here, different version from Flask. We have 1.1.4. Hopefully this will work fine. We don't know exactly. Yeah, you would then install that stuff and work your way through and try to get it in, and then you would have the first blueprint in here. I mean, you have to make additional changes. What was it? Roots from warden, right? So you have to delete the blueprint here, and this one would then need to be something like warden endpoint. And the reason for that is effectively here. Register, blueprint. No, it's not true. It's not true. You can call it whatever you like. The thing is, like, just like if you look into the controller which is shipping with it here, where the transactions endpoint is in here, then you say it like this, right? And you can have as many files as you want. There's nothing wrong with it. So potentially you could also try to warden service defined, right? So just put in here. So you're importing the blueprint from the service, right? And the reason for that is also here register blueprint. But there's something here. Here's a blueprint created, and then at some point the blueprint here, class directly attached to it, right? The blueprint is instantiated and then directly attached to the class, right? And that way, the file where all the endpoints are defined is catching it from here, right? Like warden endpoint equals this, and then you can use it here. Before request, probably need to, well, we can also maybe just simply call it warden, and then we don't have to make that many changes, right? And then, yeah, you would have a lot of roots in here, which more or less could work, and you probably have to have a lot of things to fix. Requirements.txt. So that would fix the pandas problem. And I think the longer I think about it, I was not aware about it, but yeah, we still have some issues, but at least we are already somehow starting. But I think it should be possible to put everything in one blueprint. I don't think it should. Well, you don't have that prefix. That's probably a problem, right? So I think we would need more than one blueprint. And let's assume that it's not possible, right? Because of the linking and because we are just disrupting too much stuff, right? Then the question is how to achieve that. And we need to adjust the plugin system for that. So if we look how we would do it, so on one hand side, we need to have that kind of prefix defined, and on the other hand, we need to define a controller for each of the blueprints, right? So how would you define that? So I think the best way to do it would be to look into the service of Specter warden here. And here's the blueprint module specified, right? And now we need, well, more of them, right? So let's simply make it a list. And maybe we do a list of objects. And you could potentially do something like, yeah, if we look into main, registered the blueprints here, for example, this one. And originally we had something like this. So where is it mounted? I'm a little bit confused. API routes. So to me, it looks like it's all mounted at the same endpoint. Yeah, so in that case, it would probably be somewhere here, and then you say, I don't know what it was. But if that's the case, and it seems to be the case, let's make another example here. So it's all specifying blueprints, but it's not specifying any kind of a mounting endpoint. Yeah, we could also, probably it's broken now, but yeah, we look, you see at the very bottom here, you see the URL. Maybe it's a little bit too small for you, but if I look there, it's not having any kind of prefix, right? So it's all mounting on one endpoint. So if that is the case, I could still argue, why the hell are we using a blueprint here? If we don't even use a different mounting a prefix URL, it's probably possible to do all of that in one blueprint. Yeah, so that this would not have the hassle, but yeah, maybe I let the rest of it figure out on yourself. So definitely, if we need to adjust the plugin system, I will probably be of fast help here and make it work nevertheless. But I think, yeah, we have 9 minutes left, I would say, if we do 4:30. So we can have a look of how it would look like if we would need to adjust it. So I would argue then that we need something like that. So here would be the prefix. And this would be then the kind of controller module, right? And then we would have many of them. And let's do at least two examples, right? In that case, here we have the roots. How would we address that? It would be k9 Specter X warden roots. So that's how you address it. So here in the service class, we simply do it like that. Two examples. And the next example was roots error handlers. So this is here. So that would be Canada Spectex warden errors handlers. Yeah. Oh, and now so in the service manager, we would have a different data structure, right? And yeah, we're specifying a blueprint here. And probably I would change the way the plugin system work to not make it compatible, because it's just too confusing. I don't care about the backwards compatibility here. Yeah, so you can directly screw it up as you like, and you will probably then has blueprint, has here's the controller module, and the controller module would be then for and that there would be then the prefix and the module in controller module, and we probably call it then controller modules. And maybe I would even change it here, and maybe yeah, we have then two different ones, and you have to either define one or the other. Maybe I make it nevertheless compatible. I don't know, but you get the idea. Controller modules, and then you maybe would do something like sorry, dot values. I think that's the way how you're iterating a dictionary, a Python dictionary, and then you get the key and the value within one for loop here, right? And yeah, I don't know, maybe something like this. And then you would say something like blueprints, probably better, blueprints. And then you take the module as a key. And then you're specifying the blueprint. Like this. And later on, you would also need, that doesn't work completely. We need to put in the prefix here as well, right? So probably I would then, yeah, and I want to have a data structure which I can then directly attach to the class, right? Because we have something like class blueprint. Yeah, and in that case, it's not one blueprint, it's something like this. And then, yeah, I plan to use the prefix as a key, but that's not possible. And using the module as a prefix as a key is probably the best, I guess. So that would be a string, right? And then you have the blueprint. So I would say we don't do it like this. We do blueprints module. Yeah, we do it again a dictionary, right? And within that dictionary, you have a module, and then you hard code it and say, okay, so this is a blueprint, and then so you need a class prefix here, like this, like this. Take this prefix equals prefix. Yeah, and then you would have the right data structure like this, right? And you would instantiate it here. There's something missing here. The module is no, the import name, that's fine. In that case here, it's fine, right? Because the import name is always this one here, right? So the module is later used when we are registering here, right? So here's the second step. One is initialization, one is registering. Probably remember if it was somewhere in here. So we have to initialize and then we have to register. And here we are registering. And we would again iterate but not through this. We would now iterate through this one, yeah, because that's for I don't know, BP. Yeah, and depending on these values in here, we would now register the blueprints and the blueprint here would be value, probably better naming would be here good, but we only have 1 minute left. So that would be blueprint. The prefix would be class ID, and then yet another one. And we have to take care that we don't, because we used a slash directly, if you can remember, right? So here we said slash. So in that case, we then simply say something like class value, sorry, not class, value blueprint, because that is the value from, this is the key, this is the value. And the key would be in that case BP, that is the ID of the class. Yeah, so we can say here class ID. Sorry, the key is the module, right? Yeah, but we don't care about the module, but let's call it module. We mostly care about the value, and the value is yet again a dictionary. Value blueprint, and here we have value prefix. And maybe let's do it something like that. That looks reasonable. I think that looks reasonable. Something like this. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. My introduction on how I would try and go and make the warden a plugin. I hope that gives you an idea. And yeah, happy coding and see you. Bye bye.
Yeah.